Oh, many times we went to bed hungry. In fact, there were days when there was no food in the house whatsoever, and Mother would give us a drink made of hot water, canned milk, and a little sugar, and we would go to bed early and hope that we'd be asleep before we got too hungry. It wasn't so bad being hungry, but when we were both hungry and cold, that was terrible. And when that happened, we'd go to bed with our coats on, and we'd pile newspapers over the blankets in order to keep warm.
Well, Henry Ford was unable to cope with the magnitude of the crash of 1929. He was baffled, confused, and inept in proposing solutions. He talked in simplistic terms, that if people were ambitious and get out and work, this would solve their problem. The problem was overproduction and underconsumption, not more production. The pronouncement of a multimillionaire was little consolation to most people. It was irrelevant.
There's a bitter and yet wry statement which was made by blacks about the Depression. They said in the South that the Depression had been going on for 10 years before black people even knew about it, even knew it existed. And that was true, particularly in the South, in villages, in small hamlets and small towns. Many were sharecroppers. And that line in the popular song of a couple of decades ago, it was absolutely true. They owed their lives to the company store.
And we found a way to meet somewhere, even though it was a violation of the state of Arkansas. But we gathered together as a group. We'd meet out in the woods, in parks, any place we could find. We'd meet together, we'd sing together, we'd eat together, and pray together. They couldn't separate us. It was a violation of law, but they just couldn't. The conditions were the same. And the only difference was you were a white sharecropper and I was a black sharecropper.
The type of laissez-faire which had gone on after the Civil War with the great growth of American industry and whatnot was being clipped somewhat. And in that clipping, there were the seeds of getting new developments, new approaches, and new regulations, which would assist and help the people who were in need.
She would test and go further than politically it was possible for FDR to go. And of course, the press would then try and hang him up with this, and he would look wide-eyed and say, but that's my missus, and she's free to say and do what she wants, and look a little bit hopeless, like they put upon male in a stereotyped way. And the press used to laugh, because they knew damn well what was going on with the whole relationship between the two.
There was no great hue and cry about the only two Jewish athletes on the team not being allowed to run. As a matter of actual fact, through the years, I've gone back since the beginning of the modern Olympic Games in 1896 in Athens, in Greece. And during the course of that time, no American track and field athlete physically able has ever not competed as a member of the Olympic team, except Sam Stoller and me in 1936.
I was with the Hall Johnson Choir doing the music for a movie called Tales of Manhattan. and we were in the midst of singing a tune. Good news, good news, good news, good news, good news, good news, Lord, I heard from heaven today. And right in the midst of that, the door opened and a man with a solemn face said, "The Japanese have just attacked Pearl Harbor. We're in the war."
When I was interrogated on my way by the two agents, they said, "Well, what are you, arresting me for?" And he said, "Well, you've been there to see Attorney General Biddle, you've been in the White House to see Mrs. Roosevelt, you've all these congressmen, and your movements are so suspicious." And I said, "Well, I'm a newspaper man." Years later, under the Freedom of Information Act, I was a member of the Black Dragon Society, I was a member of the Communist Party, I was an agent for the Imperial Japanese government, and furthermore, they didn't believe that my name was my own, see, because Togo was the name of a Japanese admiral who had sunk the Russian fleet.